fight alone will make us rich beyond our wildest dreams.
You teach me and I'll teach you. Disenfranchised. We're that podcast all about those franchises of those films that fancy themselves full-fledged franchises before falling flat on their face after the first film. I am your host, Stephen Foxworthy. Yes, it's been weird. There's been a little Pikachu running around Brett's office for the last couple of weeks speaking in my voice, but I'm back, baby. And speaking of joining me tonight, he is my best friend in a world we must defend. Excuse me. It's the immortal Brett Wright. Brett, how you doing?
Hello, Steven.
How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing all right, I guess.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad it's all right and not all wrong. So there's that. And this feels like old times, Brett, because Tucker is currently off in the big city trying to unravel the mysterious disappearance of his father. So it's just the OGs tonight.
Yeah.
How's
When's
that?
the last time this happened?
It probably 2022. It has probably been close to 3 years since the two of us have done this together. Just you and I.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, Tucker joined at the beginning of 2023. So yeah, that right after I moved to Illinois. So
yeah,
it's been
that man is as committed as you are to showing up to every episode. So,
well,
clearly I'm
to
not. Yeah, somebody has to be, because it ain't going to be me.
Otherwise, we would have shuttered this bastard so long ago.
Very true.
But Brett, life found a way last week. So we did a rewind, but we're back. We're live. We're doing it live. And we're wrapping up our video game theme month, Brett, with again, all the entries this month were specially chosen by you, but I feel like this one most specially chosen. Brett, what are we covering tonight?
We're covering Detective Pikachu.
Correct. From 2019, it's Pokemon Detective Pikachu, directed by Ron Letterman, written by Dan Hernandez, Benji Samit, Rob Letterman, and Derek Connolly, and starring, among others, Ryan Reynolds, Akue Otani, Justice Smith, Catherine Newton, Suki Waterhouse, Omar Chaparro, Chris Gere, Ken Watanabe, Bill Nighy, Rita Ora, Karen Sony, Josette Simon, Rachel Lillis in some archive footage, and I think Diplo, who is apparently someone famous, shows up as a DJ. But what a cast, Brett. What a picture.
Indeed.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Let me just be forthright with everybody.
Yeah.
Let me just be upfront about this.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I know this has been a running theme with me lately, so I do apologize. Because I didn't finish all of Tomb Raider, and I
remember that in the group chat. Yep.
That was more out of anger, though, not tiredness. Because look, the nap won today.
Yeah.
It's been a long week, so I wanted to take a nap instead. I'm not going to blame you. I'm going off of memory here. I first saw this movie flying to Tokyo in 2019. So I'm going off of that memory. Okay. Now, I did, out of respect, at least refresh my memory with the Wikipedia article.
Right.
So I'm not entirely going into this, not remembering anything.
Correct.
And I have a little familiarity with the games it's based on. So,
which we'll talk about here momentarily.
Yeah. So look, it's I apologize to the listeners. But look, it'll be okay.
Life. Here's the thing. Here's the thing that our listeners need to understand. We're people too. And sometimes self-care is more important than recording a podcast episode. I definitely watched the back half of this movie laying in bed and occasionally falling in and out of consciousness. Did I have to rewind the movie to make sure I caught the final scene? Sure. Yep. Sure did. Because I definitely woke up right as the credits started rolling and was like, "Holy shit, what did I miss?" And had to kind of rewind and go back and rediscover it. So yeah, sometimes that happens. I also saw this movie in 2019. I saw it in a movie theater. As Pokemon is one of the few video games that I have actively played in my lifetime, and one that I have consistently gone back to.
A movie theater?
Yes. This was in the before Brett, the long ago, the time before time.
I've forgotten.
But yes, I did see this in a movie theater.
My current movie theaters are a hellscape, from what I understand.
I when I go, which is with some regularity, I would say once every couple months, I sit in the back and I try to keep myself from any other person in the theater. But usually when I go, I'm not seeing a movie in its opening run. I'm usually seeing it several weeks after it's been out. So the rush or I'm seeing a movie that is so niche, no one fucking wants to see it. So like the last movie I saw in theaters was The Monkey, which I very much enjoyed, but that was a back row in like a weekday matinee situation. So it was kind of like one of those, we took the day off. We were, we had to take either the cats to the vet or clean something. And then so we're just like, when we're done, we're like, you know what? Let's go see a fucking movie. And we went and saw The Monkey. So.
Okay.
So yeah, it's one of those situations.
I'm afraid to go to like a popular movie on opening weekend anymore. I feel like it's going to be a bad time. Now we've gotten lucky because I first started hearing about these terrible experiences when Five Nights at Freddy's came out, and we went to go see that opening weekend, and it was fine. So I don't know if we just got lucky, or if the internet is making me believe this is overblown. I don't know.
And that could be too. And maybe it's in major market areas like Chicago or New York or LA. But I also know that Five Nights at Freddy's was a slow earner. Like that one built over time. So seeing that one opening weekend may not be as bad as maybe seeing the upcoming Thunderbolts movie opening weekend or something.
Sure. Yeah. Which, I mean, I don't go see Marvel movies opening weekend anymore because my dad moved. So
right.
I haven't seen the new Captain America yet.
Neither have I.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Maybe when it hits Disney Plus.
We're talking about me. We don't talk about you in Marvel movies anymore. We know how this works.
Right.
But yeah, so like I'm not going to go see Thunderbolts when it comes out either.
I
want to see it? Sure.
I'm more interested in Thunderbolts than I have been in any Marvel movie in the past like 3 years. So I don't know.
What is it about Thunderbolts that has made you interested?
I don't know. I like the idea of just kind of the ragtag team, even though it has like no similarity to the team from the comics, like whatsoever. Like I'm interested in, because it feels like they're setting up Dark Avengers also, which is a very good run in the comics. Like I love Bendis's lead up to the Dark Reign, which again, it feels kind of like that's where the MCU might be headed, with like Val being kind of the new Nick Fury, with Wilson Fisk now being the mayor of New York City. Like it feels like we're kind of slipping into the villains are running the show kind of territory, which I like. I like that. And what Bendis did with that title in the comics was really fun. And so now I'm kind of just wondering, can we do something that fun with it in the MCU? I have my doubts, but like Thunderbolts feels like the first leg of something like that. And I don't know. It seems interesting to me.
All right.
So it's probably going to be terrible. And I will not see it in theaters. I will see it when it comes out on Disney Plus, but.
Well, yeah, with that attitude. I really want to see this movie. It's probably going to suck though. Like, man, come on.
I can be realistic about things, Brett.
Sure.
I don't know. The Marvel stuff, even the stuff that I've enjoyed, has just felt very lackluster since Endgame.
You're watching Born Again?
I have watched the first 2 episodes of Born Again, but I have not been consistently going back to Born Again. Because, Brett, here's the thing. There's new Yellow Jackets, and there's new Righteous Gemstones. So that's kind of been monopolizing my television time lately.
Man, you got to live like I live. Wait until it's all out and binge it all at once.
I'm probably. But I did see the first couple episodes of Born Again. There was a moment in the first one. It's the moment in the first one that pissed off everybody, that really pissed me off. But, you know, what are you going to do?
But you shouldn't be pissed off. Comics.
I understand that, but by the same token, yeah, I don't want to spoil that for anyone who maybe hasn't seen it that wants to, but like, you know.
And all I'll say is it happened in the comics. Have no fear. You should also be the man without fear.
And
it happened in the comics.
What I would like to do is go back and revisit like the Bendis run on Daredevil. That's what I would really like to do. But I don't have
happy ending in the comics is what I'm saying. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it had a happy ending in the comics.
Okay. I don't know because I've not been the most avid reader of Daredevil. Which is why I want to go back and read the Bendis run on Daredevil, the Bendis Malieve run on Daredevil.
Okay. Yeah. I thought you knew. Okay. So
ain't no one tell me nothing, man.
Gotcha. Okay. So then I'll just say it happened in the comics and it was a ruse.
Okay. I just know we don't have Lazarus Pits in the Marvel universe. So.
We do technically. If this is supposed to be a continuation of the Netflix Daredevil, then we do.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I blocked so much of season 2 out of my head. Okay.
Season 3? Yeah. There were 3 seasons of Daredevil on Netflix, weren't there?
There were, but season 2 was the one I didn't like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, and also it in the comics it did involve Lazarus Pit.
Okay.
Do.
All right. But we're here to talk Pokemon.
Yeah, Marvel tangent. These happen sometimes.
Look, you know what you're getting into. And
at this point, yeah, we're not getting new listeners. You guys know what you're into.
You guys know what you signed up for. Come on.
Yeah, you love us anyway. You're here for the banter.
That's right. That's why you're here. But yeah, so Pokemon, one of the only games that I consistently played. I had an OG Game Boy, and a friend of mine gifted me a copy of Pokemon Red when I was in high school. And so the only gaming system I've ever had that has been uniquely and specifically my own has been an OG Game Boy, like the first gen Game Boy. And so I played Pokemon Red probably 3 or 4 times straight through.
Damn.
Yeah. Like I
started over multiple times.
Yeah.
You crazy son of a bitch.
Yeah. I made it to the end and I was like, you know what? Let's play it again. So yeah, I did that a few times. But yeah, it was for a while, it was the only video game I played. And then they came out with Pokemon Go to the polls. And I was there on day 1 for Pokemon Go, as I recall.
Yeah, fast forward 10 years.
Right. At least.
We forgot the time jump there.
20
I thought you were about to say, and then they came out with Pokemon Gold and Silver. No, you were doing a time jump.
No, yeah. I played a few of those later on like emulators on my phone just to like get familiar with like Pokemon Gen that I was seeing in the game that I just didn't know anything about. So I did a few of those, but it was very rare for me to make it all the way through on the emulators. So I ended up abandoning some of those, but yeah, my ex-wife was a huge Pokemon fan, actually bought a Switch so she could play Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu. So,
which are remakes of the originals.
Correct. So yeah, I mean, so yes, of course, this was a movie that we saw in theaters because, you know, big Pokemon fan. But I did not know until this movie came out that there was a game called Detective Pikachu. I was like, wait, that's a thing? I just thought we put Pikachu in a fun little Deerstalker cap, and that was the premise. Like, I had no idea this was an actual.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the premise of the game. Look, that's what. Look, man, when it comes to Pokemon, the Japanese people love to do this sort of thing. There's another spin-off game called Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, where you play as Pokemon. going on adventures.
Okay.
But yeah, so like they, you want to milk the lucrative property
Absolutely.
as much as you can.
Right.
So
stands to reason.
What would be great is what these games, these Phoenix Wright games, they're popular, right? And you go and investigate things. What if we put that in Pokemon? What if Pikachu, our mascot, was a detective?
Right. And he had a little deerstalker cap and drank way too much coffee.
Now, to be fair, the story of the movie is the broad skeleton of the game.
Okay. I was going to say, I've never played Detective Pikachu, so I may need you to enlighten me a little bit on that.
So, well, I don't think I finished them because there's Detective Pikachu and Detective Pikachu Returns.
Okay.
And this movie is kind of a mashup of both of them because Tim doesn't find his dad until the second game, or doesn't discover what's going on with Pikachu and his dad until the second game.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
The first game ends in sort of like a 90s cartoon way, where like, you have the setup premise of trying to figure out what's going on.
Right.
It doesn't get resolved. So there's this overarching story that they could finish at literally any time. Meanwhile, they're going to go on these random adventures.
Right. See you next episode.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It feels very 90s cartoon. Like,
okay.
But they just, because there's a bunch of stuff in between. It ends up being all interconnected.
Sure.
But like,
kind of like it does here.
Yeah. And I mean, it all ends the same way. I mean, the people, the villains are different, if I recall, because it's not one overarching story; it's two.
Okay.
So there are different villains, and you meet way more Pokemon. And man, I'm kind of upset because in the first game there's so many ghost Pokemon.
Oh.
And like
you love those guys.
Yeah. I mean, one of them is in my like my actual, if I were to actually have a Pokemon team in real life, I'm doing quotation fingers. One of them is in my 6. That is Trevenant.
Oh, I don't even know that one.
He's the big giant spooky tree.
Okay. What gen is he? I don't know him.
What gen is he? Hold on. This is
because he did not show up in Pokemon Go when I was playing that game.
He did too. I think it was around the time when you were starting to not play as much.
That's probably why.
But he was around.
And the ghosts are only really available in October in that game, so
also true. Yeah.
If I wasn't playing in October, then I didn't get it.
Can you see that? Not really.
Kinda. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, that looks like a spooky tree for sure.
I mean, yeah, if you were imagine a spooky tree, and then
it looks like it's got a little jack-o'-lantern face too.
I mean, it doesn't. But
okay.
It looks like it might. Hold on, I'm just gonna send it to you.
I was gonna say, yeah, send it to my text or put it in the chat here.
Because here's the thing, it not only because it's not just the regular Trevenant either. The Trevenant in my team is a shiny Trevenant. Of course
he is. Of course.
Well, you'll see specifically why, because normally he looks like a regular tree, like just green leaves and, a regular tree. The shiny one,
it's an autumnal one.
It's an autumnal tree. Yeah. It's a white tree with auburn leaves.
Yeah.
So I have to have a shiny Trevenant. That's,
that is in keeping with your brand. A Houndoom and a shiny Trevenant.
Yeah, for anyone wondering. So my team is the shiny Trevenant, a Houndoom, a Galvantula, which is the electric tarantula, Corviknight, who is like a giant metal raven. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth one is Ursaluna, Blood Moon Ursaluna, which is it was introduced in Violet and Sapphire.
Okay.
So the most recent one, and it's like it's a legendary, but it's like so Ursaluna is like so you remember? Do you remember Teddy Ursa and Ursa Ring, the bear?
Yep.
So it's the third stage of them.
Oh.
So Ursaluna is the third stage, where like if you can evolve Ursa Ring during a full moon, it becomes an Ursa Ring or Ursaluna.
Okay.
The legendary one is if you evolve an Ursa Ring, I guess the lore. If you evolve an Ursaluna during a blood moon. So like it's a giant fucking bear that looks like half bear, half werewolf.
Right.
And it has a giant like red moon on its forehead.
Okay.
And then wait.
I may or may not be Googling this right now.
You should.
Oh yeah, cool. That is 100% the spooky shit that you love.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to think what the sixth one is, and I can't remember. Well, that sucks.
I'm sorry.
That's gonna bug the shit out of me.
Well, I'm sure we'll come back to. I'm sure you'll remember sometime before this episode stops recording.
Oh, Annihilate.
Oh, okay.
Which is the ghost form of Primeape, like the third evolution of Primeape that they introduced in Ruby and Sapphire, where a Primeape gets so angry that he punches him, like he just starts punching something so much and doesn't stop until he dies.
Okay.
And then he just becomes a spectral ape.
Okay. So, I mean, very, very on brand. What's it called?
Annihilate.
Annihilate. Okay. Let me Google that here real quick as well. Annihilation, not the first thing that comes up. Annihilate, the first thing that comes up when I type in ANNIH.
Yeah, look, that's how popular Pokemon is.
The shackles. Oh, the shackles are.
The shackles are cool.
Yeah, this is very much in your aesthetic here. This is at no point has any of this surprised me.
Yeah.
I knew there would be a Houndoom because I know Houndoom is your guy.
Yeah.
Your actual human son, as you have said so many times.
Yes.
So, well, right on.
Yeah. So that is my six. That would be my team if Pokemon were real,
as they appear to be in this movie.
And it just so happens there's some pretty good type coverage there too for you, more strategy minded Pokemon players out there.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some pretty good type coverage in that team.
Fire, fighting, yeah, you got a few different types.
Fire, fighting, electric, grass, dark, steel. There's no water because it's weird. There's no spooky water Pokemon. I was shocked. Like I specifically went looking for a spooky water Pokemon, and there really aren't any.
Interesting.
I don't know why.
That's. I mean, I guess Golduck kind of has like a dark kind of look to him, but
kinda, but not really.
Right. I mean, he's water. I mean, Sharpedo.
Sharpedo was sort of. I considered Sharpedo for a second, and then I went at it. Doesn't really fit.
Speaking of this movie, Greninja.
Yeah, Greninja's a ninja. It's not really spooky.
Oh, touche. Good God, so many Sharpedo articles on the Pokemon Wiki. Carvana.
Yeah, I mean, it's a piranha, sure, but his aesthetic didn't really work. Like, I don't really like the colors they used for him. He doesn't really look like he sort of looks like a piranha, but I just didn't fit. I don't know, it didn't click with me.
Samurott.
So here's the thing. I also had to take into account that I already had 2 ghost Pokemon on my team because I think there's like a ghost water, but like I don't need 3 ghosts on my team. There's too many ghosts.
We back?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Tucker, edit this out.
Obviously.
Hey, I get to say that again. I haven't had to say that in a while.
Right.
Steven froze there for a minute, so cut this out, Tucker.
Right. We each froze for one another. So
yeah. But so that's too many ghosts. Too many ghosts.
Okay.
I need something else.
Fair.
I need something spookier. Okay. There's some wiggle room on my team. Like I could drop Corviknight. He's not that strong. Do I love a giant metal raven on my team? Fuck yeah, I do. But like he's not that strong.
Right. I was looking for like a dark water type, which I mean that's where Carvanha, Sharpedo, like all of those are dark and water. So
yeah,
I figured there might be some spookiness in there somewhere.
Yeah, where's like I don't know, like what was the lantern fish or whatever the fuck it's called.
Lanturna, but the
lanternfish in the Pokemon universe is cute as fuck.
He's fucking adorable. Right?
Yeah, that doesn't make no sense. Even though like the real world analog is terrifying, so I don't know why they went the cute route with it.
Probably to not terrify children, but yeah.
Well, I guess. I mean, look at Trevenant. That's kind of. I could terrify children.
Sure. But not to the same extent that one of those anglerfish would.
Anglerfish, that's the word. Thank you, Stephen. That's the actual
I'm here for
name.
you, man.
It's the actual name.
I got you.
The fish I was thinking of. Yeah, no. Speaking of terrifying children, like most of the ghost Pokemon in the games are usually have the soul of a child in them in one way or another.
Right. Yeah. I remember that from the first game is you're walking through like Lavender Tower and there's all these like ethereal children like popping out of places and you're just like, Yeah,
like Drifloom and Drifblim like steal children and carry them away. Pumpkaboo, which is no, it's not Pumpkaboo. That's a different Pokemon. Trevenant's Phantump. That's Trevenant's form. Is just a child's soul that got lost in the woods.
Okay.
Inside of a tree stump.
Okay.
So children are kind of fucked in the Pokemon universe. As evidenced by this movie. I mean, like, look at what happened to our main protagonist, Tim. Like,
exactly. Right. Yeah, man.
Got it rough in the Pokemon
universe. One of the things I loved about this movie is like the real world application of Pokemon in like silly and fun ways, like the Squirtle firefighters or the dudes with the speakers for ears. I forget their names, but like basically hanging out with
Exploud.
There we go. Exploud or Exploud being like the speakers at the like for the DJ. Like that shit was really fun. But then there's other stuff where you're just like, yeah, like Pokemon are kind of the central like crux of this world. What if you just like don't want one? What if you're just kind of like out on Pokemon? Like you're kind of ostracized from society at that point. It seems like.
I would imagine in a world where Pokemon exist, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody like that.
I mean, our main character is one, so we don't have to work too hard to find someone like that. But
I mean, he doesn't want to own one, but like he's not opposed to them being a part of the world.
Sure, but he's just like, I don't want one, I don't need one. And like anytime someone's like, well, hey, it's just a foregone conclusion. Like, oh, where's your Pokemon? Oh, why don't you have a Pokemon partner? Like, it's kind of one of those, like, as someone who, like myself, like, doesn't like Apple products. Well, why don't you have an iPhone? Like, that's just what people have. Why don't you have one? Like, so there's a bit of ostracization for this poor guy.
Sure. Yeah, which, I mean, in this scenario, you would own a Digimon, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
like, fuck the more popular one. I'm going to have the Digimon over here.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. The contrarian in me would be like, nah,
not
I'd
because they're better, just because I don't want to be part of the popular crowd.
Or I would have a Magikarp. Like, it would be something like that.
And you would never evolve it?
Nope. Just have a Magikarp. Just, no, he's fine. Look at him. He's just hanging out, splashing around, just enjoying, just living his best life. Why would I want to change that?
Yeah. You could enter him into jumping competitions. That's a thing.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Or,
shout out to Magikarp Jump, one of the most fun mobile games you can play out there.
Oh, really? That's fun. That's hilarious.
Yeah, you were a trainer of a Magikarp, and you're training it to jump super high in competitions.
That's really funny. That cracks me up. That's really good. I like that a lot.
And it's a seriously fun game. It doesn't have any right being as good as it is. It's not an ongoing microtransaction game.
Okay.
It has a story, and you're just rising up through the ranks of the different Magikarp jumping tournaments.
Okay. Interesting. That's wild.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend.
Sounds like it. Okay.
Yeah, you should play it.
I might.
Right now. Download it right now.
Okay.
We'll wait. We'll wait live. We'll do it live.
We're doing it live. This is taking the place of these Steven Googling things. This is Pokemon Masters EX. What's that?
It's a good question. I have no idea what that is.
Okay, cool. I won't worry about it. Magikarp Jump. Here we go. Looking for Magikarp Jump. This app isn't available for your device because it was made for an older version of Android.
Oh, no. Doesn't that suck? I bet you I can. Hold on. I bet you it's available for Apple because they don't do that shit with Apple. Hold on. Let me look. Oh, wait, it is.
Well, there you go.
Anyway.
I can play that other Pokemon game I saw, Pokemon Masters EX. I can play that one.
You can play the Pokemon TCG game where it's literally just opening packs. You just open packs of Pokemon cards and collect them.
That sounds lame.
It depends on how much you enjoy opening packs of trading cards.
I mean, I don't do it in real life, so that should tell you enough right there.
No, that just tells me you've never done it. It's one of the most addictive.
I have absolutely. I played the Star Wars customizable card game when that thing came out. So
you were buying packs on a regular basis?
I was.
Then we should study you and how you did not get addicted to opening packs of cards. You are a unicorn, sir.
No, my money started going toward comic books is what it was.
Doesn't stop the addiction to wanting to open packs.
But that's just it. Maybe I was never addicted to opening packs.
Which is weird.
I guess. If you say so. Weird.
Look, to the 4 people listening to this right now, did you play TCGs? Sound off in the comments. Let me know how addicted you are to opening packs of cards.
Right. I guess for me, it just got boring because I was opening packs and just getting the same cards every time. And I was just like, eh.
Well, yeah, I mean, it doesn't, like, the Star Wars card game didn't live that long.
No, so really didn't.
There weren't a whole lot of new sets or new cards.
And I mean, I ended up dropping out of that before they even completed the entirety of it. So, like, before we even got to Return of the Jedi, I was kind of out on that game. So,
well, yeah, it doesn't really sound like you were that committed to begin with.
I didn't know how to play. That was really the big thing. It was very
well. Now it's all
very
making
complicated.
Sense. Now it's all coming together. Like part of the addiction of opening packs is like knowing the game, playing the game, being in the game, like knowing the community and like what cards are good and what you're looking for, and like chasing that rare that you need for your deck to make it work better. And like that's where the addiction comes in. That's why opening packs is cool. Now, I mean, that doesn't apply to, well, that's how you get into the high of it. That's how you get into the addiction of opening packs.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just becomes a thing, like any other addiction. Like you love the high of opening a pack and finding a rare card.
Sure.
So,
but yeah, I guess that was never really my thing.
No.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sorry to continue to disappoint you.
I'm used to it by now.
Yeah.
I kid.
No,
I joke. You know I love you.
I know, and I love you too. I hope you know that.
Of course.
Let's talk Pokemon. So you when did that? I mean, we got off on a card tangent.
Sure, yeah.
So when did you were you an early adopter of Pokemon? Did you come to it later? Like, what's your personal history with the franchise?
Hell yeah, I was an early adopter. I was playing that shit on the school bus every day.
Okay.
Battling my friends.
Okay.
Back when Gyarados and Mewtwo were the two strongest Pokemon you could possibly have.
Right. First gen, baby.
If you had a Mewtwo, you were crazy because you the internet didn't really exist, so you didn't know where to find him. You just had to go exploring.
Mm-hmm.
And you stumble on this incredibly strong Pokemon, and you're like, who the fuck is this?
Better use that Master Ball I've been saving for just such an occasion.
Pretty much, yeah. That's what I always did.
Yeah.
Made catching the legendary birds harder, but they were easy. They had a better catch rate than Mewtwo did.
Correct. Mewtwo's catch rate is literally impossible without the Master Ball.
No, not true. You can
not true?
Not true. No, you can totally catch Mewtwo with like a regular Pokeball. It's insanely low percentage, but it's doable.
Okay.
No Pokemon, as far as I know, in any game is not catchable.
Okay.
Because that would be unfair.
Touche. But yeah, I always use Ultra Balls for the legendary birds, and then grab Mewtwo with the Master Ball. That was always my strategy.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty solid. That's usually what
now. Sometimes I had to save my game before going up against a legendary bird just to make sure
Well, that's what you should do. Because if you don't catch it, if you knock it out or you leave, it runs away, and you'll literally never see it again.
Never see it again, right?
I had all 151 because I got a Mewtwo from the promotion that Toys R Us did.
You mean a Mew?
Mew, yeah. What did I say?
Mewtwo.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Same thing. They're not. Just kidding. But the promotion that Toys R Us did, where I think you just had to make a purchase at a Toys R Us, and they would literally load Mew onto your game for you.
That's rad as hell. See, and I came to the game so late that that was never going to happen for me.
Yeah, I was in it, man. Like I remember when Pokemon Snap came out on the N64. That game about taking pictures of Pokemon. You're a Pokemon photographer,
right?
And you could take your cartridge to Blockbuster, and they had these kiosks where you could put your game in, and you could print your photos off.
Okay.
Yeah. They were like stickers. They would take the pictures that you took in the game and print them onto stickers, and you could so you could show off your pictures in real life that you took in the game.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that missed me entirely because again, did not have an N64. Only had a first gen Game Boy.
Right. Yeah. Look, we know this.
Right.
You're not the video game guy.
Sure, I'm not. Although I did purchase a video game that I have yet to start playing.
Yeah,
Alan Wake. Per your and Tucker's incessant rambling about it, I decided to purchase it, but I haven't loaded it onto the computer yet because I'm realizing this computer is so fucking old that I need to buy a new one very soon. So that's what I'm going to start saving my pennies for.
I mean, like we'll preach the gospel of Remedy games to anyone who will listen. So,
or anyone who won't,
or anyone who won't. Honestly, like which my partner can attest to. So I mean, look, she's just not into it. This is not.
Right.
She thinks it's cool, but like, and she was interested in the first Alan Wake, because it's definitely more horror. Like, feels more like a horror game.
Right.
Control is more of an action game with cool, SCP elements. So it's not. We're getting off on a tangent again. I'm again preaching the gospel of Remedy Entertainment. Play Pokemon. The games; they're so good. Anyway, Pokemon.
Brett's history with Pokemon.
I dropped off around Ruby and Sapphire, which is what I've been doing wrong. It's what I've been saying wrong. The newer ones, the newer generation is Violet and something else. It's a red something. I played Violet, obviously, because I don't remember what the red one's called.
Ruby?
No, they already did Ruby and Sapphire. That was like Gen 3 or 4. Garnet? No. I don't know. Look up most recent Pokemon games.
See, the last gen I remember was Sword and Shield.
Yes, that was the gen before this most current one. And this is the gen that I got back into the games. Like, I dropped
Scarlet and Violet.
Scarlet and Violet. There we go. That's what it is. Scarlet and Violet. So apologies for those of you screaming at your listening device earlier when I said Ruby instead of Scarlet. My sincere apologies to everyone out there. So I dropped off after Gen 2.
Okay. So after Johto?
Yeah. So Gold and Silver.
Okay.
One of my video game horror stories is that I had a complete Pokedex of Pokemon Gold. And my sister erased it.
I'm angry. I'm angry for you.
She didn't know. I've since forgiven her because she didn't know that's what would happen if she started a new game.
Touche.
It's not like she did it maliciously.
Sure.
And it wouldn't have mattered in the long run because, like, it's not like I could have gotten those. There are ways you could have potentially gotten your OG Pokemon all the way to the current gen, but it's not easy.
Right.
You would have had to been transferring them along the way every generation.
Oof.
But so that's a horror story that I have.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Which a fun story is I had Pokemon Gold when I played second gen. My favorite Pokemon, Houndoom, was in Pokemon Silver.
Oh, God.
So it's weird that he became, or it, because it could be both genders.
Sure.
It's weird that it became my favorite Pokemon, and I never really played with one until the newer generations.
Right.
Because I just dug its aesthetic.
I was going to say, it's very much like your vibe. Yeah. For sure.
I mean, it's a demon dog with horns.
Yeah. Right.
It's spooky.
What's not to love?
Yeah. And then I tried to play Sword and Shield because, like, I really fell off. Like, I played Heart Gold and Soul Silver. That's where I first found Houndoom. They were the remakes of Gold and Silver.
Right.
Because, like, I played Fire Red and Leaf Green, which were the remakes of the originals. Then I played Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which were remakes of Gold and Silver, second gen. And that sort of got me back into them for a little bit. I played Diamond and Pearl. I played X and Y. And then I dropped off again.
Okay.
And then I came back for Scarlet and Violet.
Okay.
So I've been in and out.
I remember because my ex had one of the Sword and Shield, and then I think you got the other one. If I recall.
I mean, I got it way later. I don't know. I got Sword, I think.
Yeah,
and I didn't even finish it. I didn't really like it.
I didn't really play that long. I think I got maybe to the first gym, and then I kind of dropped off on it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, the
only thing I really liked that came out of that gen is the Gentleman Wheezing. I don't know if you ever saw the Gentleman Wheezing.
Yes, with the top hat. I always wanted to get one in Pogo because they released it early in Pogo as a tie-in, and I could never find it. Like anytime there was a gym, there was no one else around. Anytime it was at a gym, no one else was around or available, or everyone already had it. And I'm like, oh, damn it, I want that guy.
Yeah.
I'd come like so close and then not end up being able to get
I eventually got one way later when they just like released it normally into the game.
Okay. Right.
But yeah. With like it is the top hat that's like a smokestack, and the green smoke that looks like a mustache is pretty good.
Looks like a character out of like From Hell or something.
Yeah. Because that generation was set in the Pokemon version of Great Britain.
What is Scarlet and Violet set in?
The Pokemon analog to like Spain, Mexico, Spanish.
Okay.
A lot of influences.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I can kind of see it from the serpentine characters on the covers here that I'm looking at. So, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, right on. Loosely based on the Iberian Peninsula. So, yeah, Spain.
Sure, Spain. I know what the Iberian Peninsula is. You don't know that I don't.
I would not have impugned your intelligence to suggest
otherwise. Good, because I definitely knew what it was.
Good. I knew you did.
Good. Yeah.
You work for a travel company. I would hope so.
Sure. Absolutely. I don't know why we're even talking about it.
So Pokemon Detective Pikachu. Sorry. And it should let the record show Pogo was an early bonding experience for Brett and Steven. In the formative years of our friendship, we would often just walk around and play Pokemon Go on our breaks and or after work. So yeah, we had a very good time, and that's how we met a lot of our friends at work too. When we worked,
we had together. A gym. We had a gym on site.
So we would frequently go down and battle the gym together if there was something fun. And there was usually a big cluster of people. We ended up getting a chat together, a text thread, and we'd all run down. And then if one of us caught one of those gyms that was like, come back later at a certain time and you can join like a big group of people to take on. And we'd like you and I and my ex would all jump in a car and run down to usually the Starbucks gym up the road. And try to take that gym with like 5 to 6 other people that had kind of gathered around. So
yeah,
but yeah,
that's the thing. Yeah,
good time.
What a time to be alive when Pokemon Go united the world.
Man, for a briefest of moments.
Yeah.
But Detective Pikachu, we're 48 minutes into this episode. Let's talk some Detective Pikachu, shall we?
I mean, really, sure. We'll talk about the movie, but like the Pokemon, like that's what's so good about this movie. Honestly, is like and what I have been sort of talking about in the previous episodes of this month, like the times when a video game movie adaptation works is when you're not trying to adapt an existing game,
right?
Because as much as I would love to see a direct adaptation of the first Resident Evil game, it doesn't work. I'm sorry. Like, I know there's people out there that would argue with me that it can work. I don't think it can. I'm sorry. It's 3 hours of a dude walking around a mansion. Like, I don't know how you turn that into a movie. I'm sorry. Right. There might be ways to do it, but I don't think you're ever going to see them.
Well, and particularly because video games, I mean, these days, like you have to make sure you get to the ending, which means you need to make the right decisions and the right choices within the game itself. And you have to be skilled enough to take on the various levels, and not everyone always gets there. I speak mostly for myself, who is bad at video games. Like, so, you know, some people don't actually end up seeing the story through to completion, or if there's like an like, because I know some games have multiple endings depending on what choices you make within the game. Like, how do you adapt a game with multiple endings? Like, that seems like a fool's errand, right?
Well, it's funny you say that. Fallout's going to do that.
Really?
Yeah, it's just one of the big things they're talking about right now, because New Vegas, this fourth game, you know, like there's multiple ways you can handle saving the Vegas Strip in that game. And since, I mean, we've gotten set photos of season 2, they're going to the new Vegas Strip.
Interesting.
So they're gonna have to canonize one of the 3 or 4 endings.
Interesting.
Which is crazy.
Right.
And we're all wondering, there's huge discussions in the community about like which ending are they going to canonize, which one makes the most sense based on what we're seeing and what we've seen so far.
Right.
So that's wild, and will either be good or bad. I assume it's going to be good because the first season is fucking great. So
I liked what I saw of it. I haven't finished it yet.
I have high hopes. Which, I mean, you started watching it a long time ago. If you haven't finished it yet, are you going to at all?
I would like to. I enjoyed what I saw of it. It's just, again, I've got new Righteous Gemstones and new Yellow Jackets coming out every week. Like, that's kind of monopolizing my time.
But man, Fallout's been out for like a year. Priority, like, you put it in order. That's what you do. Fallout came out first. You should finish it first.
Well, actually, Righteous Gemstones and Yellow Jackets were here before Fallout, so they had my allegiance before Fallout did.
No, hold on. No, hold on. Like, there's new seasons of those shows, sure, but when Fallout came out, you had watched all of the available episodes of those 2 shows.
Sure,
therefore, Fallout takes priority because that was new stuff you hadn't seen yet.
No, that's not how that works.
Because by your logic, you're waiting until Righteous Gemstones and Yellow Jackets are done completely forever before you finish Fallout.
I mean, here's the thing. They're both on their last seasons. So I guess yes. Because they're both done after this season. So when I get to episode 10 of Yellow Jackets and episode whatever of Righteous Gemstones this season, then yeah, they're done for good. But I will get back to Fallout. I did enjoy that show, and it's got Kyle MacLachlan. Like, I'm going to turn my back on a Kyle MacLachlan show. Come on.
And Walton Goggins.
So. And Walton Goggins. I love that dude. Baby Billy himself.
Yeah. Exactly.
There will come a payday. Hallelujah. What a payday. I love that we have this kind of unspoken thing where we just send each other. Anytime a Baby Billy meme pops up on TikTok, we just send it to each other.
That's true.
I love that for us.
And I will never not stop and watch one whenever it comes across my TikTok feed. Like,
it's, yeah. And now I'm thinking I'm gonna probably need to buy a Baby Billy T-shirt of some kind, some form or other. I mean, I've got my David Lynch T-shirt, so you know it's gonna happen. I've got my Gremlins T-shirt. I've got my David Lynch T-shirt. I've got my Orson Welles T-shirt. I've got my Blank Check T-shirt. Now all I need is a Baby Billy Freeman T-shirt.
I think it would complete the ensemble.
Definitely, for sure. Really tie the outfit together. For sure. Anyway. So Rhyme City is an actual location in the games, because it was not one that I was familiar with.
I mean, the Detective Pikachu games canonized it, yeah.
Okay. And so, I mean, in terms of the actual makeup of the game, what is, because I struggle to see how a mystery would fit within the staple Pokemon format of running around catching Pokemon and doing gym battles. Like, what is the format of a Detective Pikachu game?
Well, much like how the Pokemon world works, not everybody is a Pokemon trainer. Actually, if I am correct in the lore here, most people aren't Pokemon trainers. They have Pokemon partners. They have Pokemon in their lives. Ash's mom has that Mr. Mime that helps her around the house. What else that Mr. Mime helps her with, we're not entirely sure.
I'm sure he helps her in all.
We have our suspicions what that Mr. Mime helps her with, but we don't know for sure. But yeah, so like, like Pokemon training in the Pokemon universe is just a lot like sports. It is the sport of the Pokemon universe.
Right.
So not everybody does it, and to be successful, you have to be very good at it.
And we see an underground version of that here, so it's almost like a cage match, but with Pokemon in this movie, which is kind of a cool application of that idea. Like in a city where Pokemon are kind of just like equals in society, to battle them must seem barbaric, and so to actually have a Pokemon battle, it would need to take place underground. Like all of that, the logic of that is fantastic.
Yeah, I love the way that they applied all that stuff in this movie. It's something you didn't really get to see a whole lot of. Like that's the thing. Like you most people don't know Pokemon lore like that. They only know through the games, the mainstream games that they've played,
or the television show, which is all about battling and training to be a battler and like tournaments and you teach me and I teach you. You want to be the very best, like no one ever was. Exactly.
But like that's such a small portion of the Pokemon universe.
But one that apparently until Detective Pikachu never got explored ever.
No, it didn't. I mean, you sort of get hints to it in the games if you talk to NPCs.
Sure.
And there was plenty of those sorts of applications shown in the cartoon, the anime. Because there's also the unspoken things of like eating Pokemon. Like they're the only. I think, I don't know for sure. I could be wrong, but I think there are occasionally like regular animals in the Pokemon universe, and that's sort of what's implied people eat.
Right.
But also I think there's scenes in the anime where like people are eating Magikarp and like various fish Pokemon.
Sure.
So,
which again, logically would make sense.
It would, yeah. But I mean, meanwhile, there's a whole arc in second or third gen where like eating slowpoke tails is like a taboo. Like you're not supposed to do it. It's like people do it, but you're not like it's a delicacy. It's one of those like forbidden delicacies.
Gotcha.
Like you're not really supposed to do, but people do it. And they're not humane about it either. At least the town you find in that game isn't very humane about it.
Fair.
So like, Pokemon has always been a dark, if you know where to look, it's a dark universe.
Right.
Like I
for kids.
Yeah, for kids. Sure.
Sure.
So like it wasn't far-fetched, pun completely intended, to see the universe of Detective Pikachu, where like much to your point about like people that wouldn't want to battle, like there's people that would want to live in a city where battling isn't a thing at all,
right? Because I in my mind it's almost like cockfighting or dogfighting. Like it's like we're making these animals fight each other, and there's an element of it that does feel pretty inhumane, if I'm being really honest.
Yeah, and I mean they definitely try to. That's sort of the whole crux of the games, and especially the anime, of like, you're supposed to treat your partner Pokemon that you're battling with respect, with like friendship, and treating them good,
right?
And whenever Ash would go up against an evil trainer that treated their Pokemon like shit, like they were always the villain.
Yeah.
And they were the worst villains, because like there's even like opponents and antagonists he would fight in the show that still respected their Pokemon,
right?
Like Giovanni, who's the head of Team Rocket, like still respected his Pokemon and talked to them like they were his friends,
right?
So there's that difference. So that there's that difference. Like you're not gonna like go to a cockfighting ring and find a guy talking to his rooster like, do a good job out there, buddy. I believe in you.
Right.
That's not gonna happen. There's the difference, but I do see where you're coming from. Like that's why they try to differentiate it and make it be like you're supposed to form a bond with your fighting Pokemon.
And I do remember that from the original game too, and there are elements of that within the show that I recall when I did watch that in the late 90s. But yeah,
and it even became a big mechanic in the games too. Like there's plenty of Pokemon nowadays that evolve only through high friendship. Like you have to use them in your team on a regular basis, heal them when they're poisoned, and heal them in general on a regular basis. Like to build your friendship, and then once they get to a certain friendship value, they can evolve.
Okay.
So it became even a thing in the games. So they're definitely trying to beat the animal cruelty allegations.
Sure, which I thankfully, you truly you love to see animals not being treated cruelly.
Right.
So, but yeah, in terms of the mechanics of the Detective Pikachu games, so it's not a setup the way that the regular games are. Is it similar?
No, I mean you're like investigating. You're going to different locations and finding clues.
Okay.
Like if I recall, it is very similar to Phoenix Wright, where like you're going to different locations, finding clues to advance the story, and I don't think there's any battling.
Okay.
So it's all story driven. It's almost what do they call them? Like visual novels, like where you're just sort of, it's like a book,
like a motion graphic novel kind of a thing.
Kinda, yeah. But there's more too. There are game mechanics. You are doing a thing.
Okay.
But it's more story driven.
Okay.
You don't have to. It's not an RPG. You're not battling and improving your stats.
Right. Like the original games are. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I suppose that makes sense. And you said the central mystery is at least similar to what we see in this film.
Yeah. The first game is more about discovering why Pokemon are going crazy.
Mm-hmm. So the R thing.
The R, yeah. Which I mean, you eventually, like, the end of that game is finding out about R, what it is, how to stop it.
Is that a Team Rocket thing? Because that's what I was thinking the entire movie, is that R is a Team Rocket thing.
I don't think so. They don't really ever say that.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
It just feels weird for a Pokemon game to use the letter R and not have it refer to Rocket. But
yeah, I don't know.
So
I don't think they were meant. They might mention in the games. I don't remember, but it might be. I don't recall.
You had mentioned, and you'd started to talk about this earlier. I kind of want to circle back to this thing you'd said a little bit ago about how the video game franchises that are unsuccessful are the ones that are attempting to just adapt a video game. But it seems like this movie is adapting, and at least in part, the Detective Pikachu video game. What do you think sets this one apart from things like, say, Tomb Raider?
Because, like, as much as, because you could argue that, like, it isn't as good because it doesn't adapt the game very faithfully. But, like, it feels like, because the game itself is a side story to the main Pokemon line of games.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to figure out how to describe it. Because, like, well, yes, this movie is directly adapting a game. It's the story itself isn't as important as, like, a Tomb Raider is, because, like, it hits the same story beats. It hits the right story beats. It just gets there in a different way. And I'm having trouble describing why that's different.
Okay.
But like,
is it because they're not really doing a 1-for-1? Like they're actually constructing it as like, because I guess with this game, as it's a mystery, you can construct the screenplay as a mystery, because mystery films and novels have been a thing forever. So you can kind of almost construct it as that type of film and then just put Pokemon in it, right?
yeah, because I mean, you take the conceit of the games and you build your own narrative around it. Which is why I'm struggling so hard, because most of the time that doesn't work. I would say 99.9% of the time that doesn't work.
Right.
Well, no, hold on. I might be onto something here. Okay, so take The Last of Us. That show adapted the game very faithfully, but also did things that weren't in the games at all, but still fit within the narrative and the feel and the themes and the heart of what it was.
So we're extrapolating on the key ideas and building them out in a way that is interesting to the viewer.
Yes. As opposed to something like Tomb Raider, where it's like we're gonna cherry pick, or Resident Evil. Resident Evil is a better example of this, where we're gonna cherry pick things from the games that we like and completely rewrite the narrative 100%.
Gotcha.
So that's the difference.
Okay.
Like, you don't have to adapt something 1-to-1. You just have to adapt it enough so that it hits our lizard brain and goes, oh, that's that thing I like.
In a way that shows that you understand what it is that makes the game itself successful.
Exactly, yes.
To the broader audience. And apparently that is a very difficult thing to do with video games.
Yes. 100%. That's the problem. That's the problem with most video game adaptations.
Which, I mean, this is the first live action video game adaptation that Nintendo has done since 1993, which I think deserves some conversation.
Shout out to Super Mario Brothers.
But no, I think the Mario thing is kind of important to, at least in some ways, to the development of this movie. Like, it took them years and years and years to come out with another live action adaptation of any Nintendo game. And even then, it was only the most popular franchise that they've had in their history. And even then, after several animated films, some of which had varying degrees of success in America, that they even considered releasing something in live action again. Like, that is, I mean, that is the extent to which they were so badly burned by Super Mario Brothers, which I find fascinating.
No, well, fascinating but understandable. Because
yeah, oh no, absolutely.
They weren't just burned; they were torched.
Like, I mean, and it was, and in part it was because this is like the first Super Mario Brothers is the first video game movie ever. So no one really knows how to adapt one. The only thing that people really learn after Super Mario Brothers is, okay, not like that.
That's true.
But and I know this is something that we've kind of talked about in the past on this podcast, is just the notion that there are so few good video game adaptations. And I don't know what it is, but since like 2019, we've started to see some actual pretty good ones coming out. Why do you think that is?
It's a good question. One that many people have tried to answer.
Because, I mean, between this and Sonic the Hedgehog, which I think comes out like the same year or maybe the year before, like, those are two really solid video game adaptations. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Sonic isn't really an adaptation of anything other than just Sonic the Hedgehog himself.
Oh, Sonic comes out the following year. Sorry.
Yeah. Like Sonic is just an adaptation of the character.
Okay.
It is not based on any game whatsoever.
Okay. Well, so you would say that is the key to its success then?
I would say so. Because I mean, like you could
then,
try to adapt the story of the games, but there's not much there. So
I guess my next question then is how does it then still appeal to the diehard fans of the game? Because if it's that successful, it must on some level appeal to fans of the games as well, right?
Yeah, because the parts that they did adapt, see my previous statement, are true to the games, true to the heart of the games, true to the humor and vibe. They're true to the character. Like Sonic and in later Tails and Knuckles and Shadow are all their characters. Like it's not, because I mean, look at what happened with Sonic. Like they released the early trailer with that really shitty version of Sonic with the actual like human teeth, and you're like, the fuck is going on?
Yeah,
like they bullied them into doing the right thing.
One of the few instances of an internet uproar that actually ended well, as opposed to, usually those things tend to end with people abandoning social media and like quitting acting and things like that.
Well, yeah, luckily that was just bullying the studio. I think that's why it worked. They weren't bullying that might have been the culmination, even though it came out a year after this. Like that might have been the culmination, the turning point. That might have been the turning point where the fans were like, we are fed up with you fucking studios not understanding how to adapt a game. Get your shit together. And they listened, saw that listening to that was successful. And then, a few years later, you get The Last of Us, you get Fallout, you get the Super Mario Brothers movie. Like, now to be fair, you also get Minecraft, and we're not going to talk about that because it makes me rationally angry.
We might actually have to talk about it, depending on how
we
well
might
it does
at some point. God help us!
I mean, we are going to have
crash and burn so goddamn bad.
We are going to have to talk about what's that? Was it Shadowlands? Is that the name
Borderlands,
of that game?
yeah.
Borderlands. That's it.
Yeah, you get your Minecrafts, you get your Borderlands. Those are studios that are still like living in the past, thinking we're just gonna take this popular IP and try to adapt it,
right,
without any understanding. Because like now you've got stories coming out like this past week where the showrunner for the God of War TV show they're developing was like, I tried to play the games and I couldn't. I'm not a gamer. I don't get it. And you got the community going, get this fucker away from this property immediately.
Right. Which makes sense. Like, again, because it's the he who must not be named approach to superhero filmmaking. When he comes on to, when they ask him, hey, do you want to make X-Men? He's like, fuck no, I don't want to make a superhero movie. Because someone like sits him down and explains to him, there are themes here that you probably will relate to. And he goes, oh, well, okay, I can do that. And that's what starts the superhero boom that has lasted to this day is 2000's X-Men. And it initially came from, that's why they're too afraid to put them in the real costumes. They have to be wearing like the leather that was so popular in the mid to late 90s. Like but the spirit of the thing is intact. A thing I up until recently called the Gaiman principle, but I'm thinking of renaming for obvious reasons, is just this notion that as long as the spirit of the thing is intact, then it will be successful because it will still appeal to the fans of the thing. Sometimes the particulars don't matter as much as the broader themes of the projects.
Yeah, like take the Super Mario Brothers movie for example. Like, the cast of that movie is absolutely Hollywood schlock, ridiculous bullshit.
Right.
But the movie itself,
which I still have not seen,
is so true to like the spirit of Super Mario. Like it's a great movie. I really enjoyed it. I hate having to listen to that cast do the voices of these characters because It's so traditional Hollywood bullshit. Like,
sure, I believe it.
Instead of getting people that could have actually done legitimately good jobs, you get popular A-list celebrities to do it. Like,
yeah, you get Chris Pratt.
Stop. And Charlie Day, look, I love Charlie Day. Charlie Day is a great guy. He's not the voice of Luigi, though.
Right.
And look, I love Jack Black. He's not Bowser. Like, come the fuck on. Why?
How do you feel about Anya Taylor-Joy as Peach?
She did a fine job. She's okay.
Okay.
Just like Charlie Day was okay as Luigi, but like it just feels like you had to put a big name celebrity in the credits,
right?
And you chose to do that over choosing somebody who's good for the job, better for the job,
right?
No, I'm not one of those people that was like Charles Martinet needed to be the voice of Mario. I don't think he's great in small bursts in the games. He's iconic for that, but I don't know if he could have done that through an entire movie.
And it probably would have grated on some people that had to have to hear him do that.
Yeah, like he's iconic for his "Let's Go" and his Yahoo. Like that's great.
It's a me.
It's a me. That's all. That's all he does. That's all he needs to do.
Exactly.
But like you could have maybe just hired like an actual Italian or an Italian American person to do it. Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, heaven forbid we do that.
I'm just saying.
You know who I think would have made a fucking killer Mario based on and you know that I think Bob Hoskins was a great Mario. That movie did him no favors, but Bob Hoskins can do no wrong. Okay. I will not put any blame on Bob Hoskins, nor will I hear Bob Hoskins slander. You know who I think would have probably had a really fun time with it is James Gandolfini.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think he's a little bit too old.
Well, he's also at this point a little too dead.
I mean, he's dead. He's dead now. But like, if you were to like say take, Sopranos James Gandolfini and like have him voice Mario, I think it sounds too old. But that's neither here nor there. It might have worked. I don't.
What about Bobby Cannavale?
I don't know who the fuck that is.
Oh. He's the cop husband in Ant-Man, in the Ant-Man movies.
Oh, okay.
He's a theater guy, which is of course why I know him. But yeah, he's done all sorts of shit.
Yeah, sure, he could probably work.
There you go, Bobby Cannavale for Mario.
Yeah, just I don't know, just figure something out. It doesn't be Chris Pratt. Why? Anyone but Chris Pratt. Why?
Well, and that was when he was on that run of animated shit where he was just getting hired to do every voice of every animated character. And I think it was because the Lego movie was so good and people liked the Lego movie and like, people like the Jurassic Worlds and the Guardians of the Galaxies. Like people love Chris Pratt and the internet's like, no, we don't. Cast someone else.
We did. We loved Chris Pratt there for a long time. And then we found out what a piece of shit he is.
Yeah.
But he's not enough of a piece of shit to be canceled.
Because here's the thing. Like, people that work with him, love working with him. They're like, this guy, he's great. This guy is my kind of guy. But then, he like refuses to renounce like some of the practices of his church, which are very, anti-queer, like very, very not progressive, very, very, very church-like behavior from these churches, which I think is why a lot of people are, and his refusal to kind of separate himself from that, the whole thing with leaving Anna Faris for Schwarzenegger's daughter, like all that kind of, I think rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Yeah. We don't need to litigate Chris Pratt.
No, I just need to rail against him as Mario is all I need to do.
And Garfield.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're going to be covering that Garfield movie.
Probably.
At some point.
Absolutely we are. That movie came and went, and I knew it was going to come and go.
Mm-hmm.
Why did that movie even exist anyway?
Correct. You're right. You should say it.
Yeah. So but I mean, like, yeah, like back to my original point.
Yes.
As long as it stays true to the heart and the feeling and the vibe of the thing, that's all that needs to be there. Like,
right.
Sort of. I say that because like there still does need to be because you could argue in the first couple. This is why I will somewhat defend the second Resident Evil movie. And maybe that's just because I love fan service and I'm a sucker for fan service.
You really are.
But like,
it has the opposite effect on me. Whereas I'm like, don't you fucking pander to me, you pieces of shit. Yeah. Whereas you're just like, yes, put it in my veins.
Pander to me more, please.
It's the reason that we land where we do on a certain movie that we will not mention.
Yes. That has passed on.
Correct.
It's in the afterlife.
You can hear us talk about it for the last time recorded on Patreon. Yeah. Patreon.com/disenfranchised.
Because like the first two Resident Evil movies capture the vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it has the heart really, or like, but like it's the vibe is there.
Okay.
Not much else, but the vibe is there.
I mean, that's something. According to kind of what the treatise that we're operating under, that's a huge part of it.
Yeah. And especially the second one. The second one is full of so many references and fan service that, like, I guess it's different now because, like, at the time, that was easily the best Resident Evil movie just because of all the fan service. Because it came across as like, okay, this was made by somebody who played these games, knows this story, and is telling it just in their own way.
Right.
Why this Alice character is there, I have no idea. Other than, you know, he's
she was in the last one.
Well, the fact that she's in them at all is because he's married to her.
Right.
So like, and because she wanted to make. That's the weird production thing. Is like, she was a fan of the games and wanted to make a movie. When she pursued it, she found out Paul W.S. Anderson was like, well, they're already doing this, so why don't you go meet with him? I might have talked about this on the Tomb Raider episode, so apologize if I'm repeating myself. Steven wasn't there.
I was not. So I'm hearing all this for the first time.
Yeah, Steven's hearing it for the first time. You know, fast forward maybe like 20 minutes if you don't want to hear me repeat all this. We'll check in about 20 minutes and I'll let you know if I'm still talking about it. So that's how they meet. And, you know, they hit it off and he's like, you know, infatuated with her and is like, you know what?
Don't blame him. She's beautiful.
I'm going to
incredibly talented.
I'm going to impress this woman by giving her this role in the movie. But she does, like, I want to impress her by giving her this role in this movie, but like, she doesn't fit any of the characters in the games. I wonder what I can do. I know. I'll create a completely original character, whole cloth, and ignore the story 100%. That'll work.
There you go.
And it did. She married him.
I think they're still married, actually.
They're still married.
Yeah, good for them. He has the sole writing credit on all 6 of those movies.
Yeah.
Like, he is the only person who wrote all 6 of those.
Because, see, part of the problem is that even Mila Jovovich and Paul W.S. Anderson didn't really, as far as I've heard from interviews, they played the original 3 games, but didn't do anything after that. So, like, they only have, like, so Paul W.S. Anderson only has that to go off of. So,
at that point, then they're kind of riffing within the world rather than actually adapting.
And then looking up a Wikipedia article and picking and choosing what looks cool from there. You know, oh, this character is in the games, we got to use them. Or this character is in that game, we got to use them. Right. We haven't used this character from the first game yet. He's going to be in the 6th movie. So like that's what happened there.
Gotcha.
And it just gets further and further from the source material, because when you start off ignoring the source material, it's only going to get worse. You're not going to be able to steer the ship back to proper source material. That wouldn't make any sense.
Well, and again, I think that's the problem of a lot of early video game adaptations. And again, this is the first Resident Evil movie comes less than 10 years after Super Mario Brothers. It's in 2002. So like there's still, again, we've come this far, and we're only now starting to get into people figuring out how to adapt these things. I had heard up until Detective Pikachu came out, the most or the best video game adaptation kind of by default was Silent Hill. Is that correct?
That's the one I always said. It's the one that I would always defend.
I was going to say, and you're not alone, and you're not the only person to say that to me either. Past and future guest Samuel Dumas would say that as well. My old co-host on Rule of Thirds, Caleb Dunkerson, would say that as well. Like that was kind of the go-to until Detective
because
Pikachu.
It fits the theme we're talking about. The Silent Hill movie absolutely fucking nails the vibe and the heart and the just the feeling of a Silent Hill game, which allows you to ignore the inconsistencies with its storytelling based on the video games.
Makes sense.
Because that movie is a great example of the studio interference that thinks that there's something about the game that won't work.
Right.
Like just flat out thinks it won't work. Like in the games, it's Harry Mason and his daughter that get lost in Silent Hill. But the studio thought, well, they're father and daughter. People are going to relate to a mother and daughter more. So we're just going to change that. And it sort of works. Like it's sort of better. Well, not better. Like it's okay.
I mean, better than other, video game adaptations.
Yeah, like that's not a terrible change, but the reasoning is stupid.
It's a change for the sake of making a change.
Exactly.
We talked about this in our Planet of the Apes episode, the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes, is that sometimes there's just a producer who gets, a bug up his butt about something. It's like, I have to put my stamp on this movie. So I'm going to, insist on this change being made so that people know that I had something to do with this.
Right. That's exactly what it is. Because then that's the tale as old as time when it comes to video game adaptations, is the argument that you have this property that works, that has millions of fans that already love this story. Why fuck with it so much?
Right.
Fuck with it a little bit because it's an adaptation and you have to. Why are you, like, take Tomb Raider, for example. Why are you going to take this story that could have worked, at least partially, worked in movie form, chuck it out the window, and do something completely different because you have to re-characterize Laura.
Right. And I mean, because it's her before the video games, right? We have to do the origin of every character.
Yeah, well, I mean, the video game is her before she's Laura Croft, right? Like, but like in the video game, she starts off as like a rich, very intelligent, successful college student who like wants to pursue this thing she found.
Right.
Gets a group together, sails off to this island, and that's when shit happens.
Sure.
But in the movie, she has to be a down on her luck woman who is refusing her inheritance. She doesn't want it. She's better than that.
Right.
She doesn't want handouts. And like, so she's just down on her luck, doesn't have any money, refuses the inheritance, like has to scrape and claw to find this boat to get to the island to find her dad. Because, she can't have this thought on her own. She has to follow her dad. Like, which is partially the story of the second game.
Right.
Crammed into the first movie for whatever fucking reason. because apparently people wouldn't have liked a rich, successful Lara Croft. She needed to be more relatable.
Well, that was around the time when we were all about eating the rich, which, by the way, that hasn't changed. But here we are. We're, basically being run by a oligarch dictatorship now. So,
which, I mean, sure. I mean, I get that. But like at the same time, you fix that by making her a likable character. That's what the video game did.
Right.
Like, you make her a likable character by putting her through this adversity that the game does.
There are certain rich characters we just don't mind, like Scrooge McDuck. Everyone loves Scrooge McDuck. Yeah. No one's gonna say any bad thing about Uncle Scrooge, but he's he's a fucking billionaire, So there are ways around that and ways to connect, help characters connect in that way, but that means you can't write it lazily. You actually have to do some legwork and make it make sense.
Yeah. And that way of thinking completely erases like 5 other interesting characters,
right?
Or 4, but there's a group, and maybe Tucker was right. Tucker was said if they wanted to go that route, it would have worked better as a series than a movie. Maybe he's right. Maybe that's too much for a movie,
and that's 100% what I think and that's why a lot of these are going to TV now rather than like Last of Us, Fallout, great examples where you're telling that kind of story in a more long form way. And it fits better because there's so much story there to tell. And you can really like dig into character and, spread out the Easter eggs and stuff like that. Like I think something like that tends to work a little better in a long form format.
Yeah, and I would agree.
Because the games themselves take hours to play. Like, why wouldn't you take hours to tell that story instead of trying to cram it all into an hour and a half, 2 hours?
Right. That's very true.
Whereas it kind of works with this movie, with Detective Pikachu. Like because I think the world is so fleshed out, because most people coming into this movie at least have an understanding of Pokemon. It is, Brett, I'm gonna tangent here for a second. It is so weird to hear like really great character actors like Bill Nighy and Ken Watanabe talking about Pokemon. Like it's just really weird to me because you can almost tell they have no idea what they're saying, and it's just kind of like, well, these are really weird things to say. That's odd. But
they're probably used to it. I mean, Ken Watanabe was in Godzilla, right?
Sure, let them fight.
Yeah, and Bill Nighy was in the Underworld movies, so like he's used
to. Oh fuck, that's right, he was.
He's used to talking about crazy gibberish all the time. So
I've blocked those movies so far out of my head. He's also in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and that's the thing.
Shaun of the Dead. So like he's used to the shenanigans.
I ran it under a cold tap. God, I love Shaun of the Dead. You're right. Like that is part of what it is to be an actor, but like, I don't know. It just feels like the word Pokemon just feels so foreign coming out of their mouths. Like, and you could tell like they're almost like, this is a weird thing for me to have to say.
Sure.
Whereas with someone like, Catherine Newton or Justice Smith, it's like, yeah, we grew up playing Pokemon. We know what Pokemon are. Yeah, that's a Psyduck. That's a Pikachu. Yeah, let's just move on. Whereas Bill Nighy's like, yes, it's all about the relationship of people with their Pokemon. And you're just like, you keep on saying this word, but I don't think it means what you think it means. Like,
I mean, sure. Yeah.
I don't know. It felt weird to me, and it's probably just a me thing, but yeah, I was just like,
I mean, at least they're pronouncing it correctly.
True.
Because I mean, outside of learning how to pronounce it for a movie, I have to imagine like somebody like Bill Nighy is pronounce it, Pokemon.
Or Pokemon,
or
Pokemans,
Pokemon, or something like that. Like,
right? Because you got the accent there, Pokemon. Yeah, would make sense.
Like, I mean, like that's look. Actually, Pokemon is really how most adults pronounce it. Like they think that the it's a long E for some fucking reason.
I like saying Pokemans just to like irritate people sometimes.
I mean, yeah, like it's. I will be the first to tell you sometimes it's fun to just mispronounce something on purpose.
Sure.
Ridiculously mispronounce something on purpose gets a laugh out of me every time.
And another thing I will say, and I don't know if I've mentioned this in our Green Lantern episode or in our X-Men Origins Wolverine episode, but I do not care for Ryan Reynolds. Like the fact that he, after Deadpool, kind of became like the poster child for Hollywood snark for a while and like was in every movie for honestly like the last 10, 13 years. It's exhausting to me.
He's definitely overstayed his welcome.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a time there for a while where it was endearing, and I quite liked Ryan Reynolds. I thought he was a funny individual and charming. Not really anymore. Yeah. Just kind of run its course.
Like, even before like the Deadpool thing, when he kind of was boosted back into the public consciousness, I always kind of found his like shtick very a little heavy-handed. Like I was always just kind of like, all right, we get it. You're snarky, you're funny. People find you endearing. I find you annoying. Let's get on with it. But yeah, like
if you're going back that far, that feels more contrarian, Stephen, than anything.
I didn't care for it. Like, and I don't say that to be a contrarian, but like Van Wilder, I was like, no, thank you. Like, you know, I would have thought he would have been an interesting Flash in a DC movie, but he got cast as Green Lantern instead, which I thought he was fundamentally wrong for. Like, I do think I mentioned that on our Green Lantern episode, but just like, I've just never really cared for him as a performer. Like sometimes performers just kind of rub you the wrong way. Like he's always been one of those guys. So when he kind of like became like the it guy for a while, I was just kind of like, I don't get it. Like it never understood it.
Yeah. No, you know, hey, that's your opinion, man.
Yeah.
I think we all feel about it. I think everybody, the zeitgeist has caught up to that opinion.
For some,
out
yes.
His welcome.
Yeah. Well, and I think this whole thing with him and Blake and the movie that she did with this creepy director dude last year, like everything surrounding that just feels like everyone's just like, all right, just shut the fuck up and every one of you go away. Like we're kind of all tired of this. So
yeah, because I will tell you, I love Deadpool and Wolverine, but he's my least favorite part of it.
Yeah,
like, the reason I love Deadpool and Wolverine so much is just because it's the payoff to watching all the MCU movies and all the Marvel movies and all
right.
For having been a fan of this shit
movies for like 25 years. Yeah.
Not because Ryan Reynolds is a great Deadpool. He's a fine Deadpool, I guess. But like,
yeah, I mean, again, I never cared for that character either, which is another part of it. Like everyone's like, oh, Deadpool, he's great. And I was like, I never got the appeal of the character was just no, thank you for me.
Yeah. He has to have a really good writer behind him. Like you can't be doing this stupid edgy stuff like Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. I read that and was like rolling my eyes half the fucking time. Like, why are we here?
Well, why are you doing this? I read The Punisher kills the Marvel Universe. That was fun. But
I mean, it's not. I mean, why are you doing this? Like, what's the point? Like,
sure. No, and yeah. So like, and I don't know, like, but Deadpool Wolverine is pure unadulterated fan service. So it does not surprise me that you really love that movie. I thought it was fine at best, but that should come as no surprise to anyone.
No, not at all.
But you know, whereas this movie I thought was good. Like I enjoyed Detective Pikachu despite the Ryan Reynolds of it all. The fact that I don't have to look at him, I think helps. Honestly. Sure. And the Pikachu is absolutely adorable. So that helps again, a good deal. And I love that Pikachu drinks coffee and I love coffee and Pikachu loves coffee. So I'm like, oh, I understand this guy. Like, I mean, this makes sense.
And it does. I really, honestly, I love the humor in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It does a very good job of like, Pokemon are funny when you really think about it. Like, Psyduck. The Psyduck in general is just a very funny Pokemon.
The Mr. Mime scene might be my favorite scene in the whole fucking movie. The
Mr. Mime scene is great.
The Mr. Mime scene is so incredibly funny. And then just some of the applications of the Pokemon I found really funny. Like I mentioned the Exploud speakers and and stuff like that. But just, seeing like a Pokemon just doing something, you're like, oh, of course that Pokemon would be doing that in a city setting.
It was like Ludicolo was helping the bartender.
Yes, absolutely. The Squirtles on the fire department I mentioned before, that you would just randomly look up in the sky and there'd be like a Pidgeot or a Pidgeotto or a Fearow or a Spearow flying overhead. Like all of that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And just in some of those moments had like a little, kind of tinge of humor to them as well. Like a Snorlax just sleeping in the middle of the street. So people are like directing traffic around it. That's a great visual gag. That's a great sight gag. Yeah.
That's absolutely what happens in universe all the time.
Yeah, that's like literally that's how you find Snorlax in the game. Is he's asleep in the middle of the road, and he's sleeping in two different places, and that's your chance to catch a Snorlax is when he's just sleeping and blocking your path. That's it.
Yeah, it's a perfect encapsulation of really what I'm talking about. Like, it not only is that a callback and potentially an Easter egg to the first game where you have to do that because he's blocking a road, but it's also just something that would happen in this universe. I assume Snorlax doesn't give two shits. Like if he's tired, he's gonna fall down somewhere and go to sleep. He doesn't care where it is.
Absolutely.
He doesn't care who he's inconveniencing for doing so.
Right. And it just, again, it's like a huge city, but then, shit, as someone who just moved out of a major metropolitan area, shit like that happens in the city all the time. Like, something will go wrong, like but in this case, it's an animal that fell asleep. And if you hit it, it will do more damage to your car than to the animal. Like in this particular instance. So like
in more ways than one, not only like hitting it, but also it'll wake him up and he's going to fuck up your car.
Correct.
Because Snorlax are notoriously very angry if you wake them up before they're supposed to be woken up.
Exactly. Which is why they always come in hot after you play the Poke Flute. But, it's stuff like that. Like you're right. There's humor kind of embedded, and it's not just the gags. It's not just the dialogue. It's inherent within just and again, it makes it clear that they've thought through on the world building, which again, I'm a sucker for good world building. If you've constructed a very well, constructed a well thought out world, I'm going to get lost in it because that's just who I am. Like I love world building. So this is a very well actualized, notion of what it is for Pokemon to be living in the world that we live in. Like, and it fits. It's really funny. I love that that first shot of the Snubbull as you pan up from Ken Watanabe's desk and you just see this glowering Snubbull. And he's just like, oh no, he's really sweet. And he's just like growling the whole time. It's just perfect. Like it's just and the idea that Ken Watanabe has a Snubbull too is also inherently hilarious.
Yeah.
Like I kind of love it.
Yeah, man. It just goes back to what we've been saying, that it captures the heart and the spirit of the thing it's adapting. And that's all you got to do.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, making Mewtwo the focus, I mean, that was in the game, but like, it's also fan service. Like Mewtwo is like sort of like the unspoken mascot behind Pikachu. Like,
and he is. I mean, he was the subject of the first Pokemon movie that released in America. The Pokemon : the first movie, which I also saw in theaters. Yeah. But like he was the subject of that too. So if you're going to do a first live action movie, it makes sense that Mewtwo is kind of the crux behind it.
Yeah.
So no, I totally get it.
And then making a Ditto turn into a human.
Fun.
I don't know if that's a thing that happens in universe, but I don't see why it wouldn't be. I mean, I feel like a Ditto could probably turn into a human. And
I love that she wears the sunglasses to hide those cold, dead Ditto eyes.
To hide that was fucking great. Like, because that's always how. Like, it's sort of the thing. Like I'm not one of these because I think it's funny, but like there are some pedantic Pokemon fans that are like, that only happened in one episode of the anime because it was a Ditto that didn't know how to transform all the way.
Right.
But like they the Pokemon Company has just adopted that as
Mm-hmm.
the way a Ditto looks when it turns into something,
and rightly so.
Because it's hilarious. It's funny.
Correct.
It's
It's
goofy as shit, and I laugh every time.
And it allows them to be able to sell more merch because then you can sell the regular version and then you can sell the Ditto version.
They absolutely do.
And there are people out there who are going to buy that shit.
Oh yeah,
and they do.
If they had made like a Ditto Houndoom, I would have bought that shit right away. They haven't though, because there's barely any Houndoom merch. I don't know why they keep disrespecting my boy like that. But
I mean, that's the problem when you go outside the mainstream, man. When you live your life on the fringes, people ain't making shit for you. Like one of my favorite franchises is Gremlins, and compared to like your favorite franchise, Ghostbusters, they just ain't making the Gremlins merch like they're making the Ghostbusters merch, man.
That's true. I see your point. I mean, maybe they've done focus groups, and Houndoom wasn't very popular. It just seems like, at least around Halloween, I never understood it. Like he's a spooky dog. Like, look, I get it, ghosts, yeah. Spooky ghosts. But like, why don't you do other spooky things? That's all I'm saying. But
I mean, you're right.
But no, like, I was gonna tie it back into. I've been to the Pokemon Center in Tokyo. And there is a plushie of every single Pokemon. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
That is a thing.
Right.
Just depending on popularity, you might see different kinds of merch based on popular Pokemon.
Which makes sense.
Like
Pikachu's going to be on everything.
Yeah, top 3 Pokemon I would say are Pikachu, Mewtwo, and Gengar. Not
Eevee?
Oh, Eevee. Top 4. Eevee.
I was going to say Eevee is like hella fucking popular.
Eevee People and all of its evolutions are definitely just as popular.
Right.
So those are your top 4. Those are the Pokemon you're going to see the most merch of.
Mm-hmm.
Ditto might actually be up there, honestly. Like Ditto is just Ditto. Is like
right. Yeah.
Is cool. Or Mew kind of. But you can find a plushie of every Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
I had to wade through a lot in a crowded Pokemon Center in Tokyo.
Fortunately, you're like really tall, so I'm sure you probably had to like you were probably able to get in there. And
no, it made it worse because my view was obscured by the mass of people like 3 feet shorter than me.
I didn't want to say it. I'm glad you did.
Look, the joke I'm big in Japan has been a joke for a very long time.
And it's going to be a joke we're going to be using again here very, very soon.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I just wanted to tie that back in because like I saw this movie on the flight to Tokyo.
Right.
So a 12-hour flight to Tokyo.
So let me ask you this, Brett. We've been here almost 2 hours. I think we should probably bring this thing to a close.
Probably, yeah.
But so let me ask you this, just point blank: is this the best video game adaptation yet?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, if you'd asked me when it came out, sure, I'd probably agree with you.
Okay.
But now, no, not at all.
So
it's fine.
What
do you
put? It is. What do you put at the top then?
Last of Us.
Last of Us. Okay.
Fallout,
got him questioning his reality now, folks.
I mean, I want to put Fallout above Last of Us because I like Fallout,
the game, better.
The game more than The Last of Us.
Yeah.
It might be one of those situations where, like, if you ask me tomorrow, I'll have a different answer.
Sure.
Because,
but for right now,
they're both really good in their own different ways. Because like Fallout is more goofy and over the top, whereas Last of Us is very drama, like grounded.
Okay.
Fallout's probably not going to make you cry.
Sure.
But episode 3 of The Last of Us will make you cry harder than you've ever cried at anything ever.
Sure.
So
let me ask you this. Let me amend my initial question. Is Detective Pikachu the best film adaptation of a video game yet?
I think Super Mario Brothers beats it.
Okay. I respect it.
But that's also tough because you could argue for Pokemon. You could argue for Detective Pikachu. I don't include Sonic just because it's not a direct adaptation of a game.
Sure.
And I mean, Super Mario Brothers isn't either, but like, it's still set in that universe.
Right.
It's still Mario fighting Bowser. Well, I guess the Sonic movies is Sonic fighting Robotnik, so it's not really.
I was going to say, and as you said earlier, it doesn't get the specifics, but it gets the spirit of the thing, and when it comes to adaptation, is what it takes to make a good adaptation of anything. So as long as the spirit's there, does that make it a good adaptation?
I guess when it comes down to it, it's really just going to be which one I liked more.
Okay. And which one did you like more?
I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
I'm gonna defer for now. I don't know. It's one of those three.
Okay. That's totally fair. And I respect. Look, if I'm going to respect anyone's opinion on this question, it's going to be you, because you are the biggest video game fan that I know. So there it is.
Best film adaptation is Assassin's Creed. There we go. I said
there it is. It's been decided.
Yep.
Pokemon Detective Pikachu came out on May 10th, 2019. It opened second at the box office to $54.4 million on its way to a total domestic box office of $144.1 million. Worldwide, we get another $284.8 million for a total box office gross of $428.9 million. In terms of a sequel, they pretty much announced it before this movie even came out. But it has been in basically it's been in active development ever since, without any kind of momentum towards it.
Last we heard was either the writer or the producer, or the director, or somebody in 2023 said it was in active development.
Yeah. Basically, Justice Smith said in 2001 that he didn't really have high hopes. He said, I think we just kind of have to bury our hopes. I don't think it's going to happen. I really hope so, though. The next year in 2022, Catherine Newton was like, yeah, I'd love to do it. And then, February 2023, Legendary said it's still in active development. And in March, they announced March 2023. So again, 2 years ago, they announced a director, Jonathan Kreisel, and the screenplay written by Chris Galletta. So we can't even get the original team back together. So at this point, it kind of looks dead in the water. But
yeah.
But what we do have is the box office. It opened at number 2 behind the, let me see here, third weekend of Avengers Endgame. Speaking of Marvel.
Nothing was beating that.
Right. And then we also have in third place, The Hustle, which is that Rebel Wilson, Anne Hathaway remake of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Oh, yeah.
That's also opening new this week. In fourth place, we have The Intruder, which is a movie with Dennis Quaid, apparently, stalking Michael Ealy and Megan Good. I don't know this movie. This was I think, part of the Quaid-assance, when Dennis Quaid started coming back. And then in fifth place, Long Shot, which is what if Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron, got together and she was like a presidential candidate or something like that. Rounding out the top 10, you've got Palms in sixth place. I don't know what the fuck that is. A cheerleader movie, I guess. In seventh place, we have Ugly Dolls, future episode of this podcast, Ugly Dolls. In eighth place, a movie called Breakthrough. Don't know what it's about. In ninth place, we have Tolkien, which is a J.R.R. Tolkien biopic starring, I want to say, Nicholas Hoult. I think that was on his tour of playing various authors. And then finally in 10th place, see our episode on The Curse of La Llorona. The the tomatometer score on this one is a 68%. The critics' consensus: Pokemon Detective Pikachu may not take its wonderfully bizarre premise as far as it could have, but this offbeat adaptation should catch most, if not all, of the franchise's fans. We've got a Metascore of 53 based on mixed or average reviews from 48 critics. And finally, the Letterboxd score, as of right now, is a 3.0. Brett, out of 5 stars, how many are you giving to Pokemon Detective Pikachu?
All of those scores are surprisingly low, but I'm going to go with a 4.
I am too. It's a 4 for me also. I had a lot of fun with it. Even the second time, had a lot of fun with it. It's a fun movie. And again, it gets so much right. It gets more right than it gets wrong, which is, I think, what makes it so fun for me. And again, this is one of the few video games that I have any kind of stock in. So,
sure.
Yeah. So there you go. And that is our episode on what is this movie? Pokemon Detective Pikachu. And that is the end of our second of 3 consecutive theme months for the year 2025. This is the end of our Oops All Video Game theme month. Brett, as the impetus for and the one who selected all the movies we covered, how do you feel? How are you feeling now at the end of Oops All Video Game month?
Tired.
Fair.
I'm tired, Grandpa.
Are you going to come back and join us for our next theme month, which is also one of those, we're designing this to try to get Brett back into the rotation more often, theme months?
Like, I don't know, man. What is it?
We're doing our second sequel theme month after the success of our Arnie April 2 Austrian Boogaloo from last year. This year, for April, we're doing Big in Japan 2, even bigger.
Oh, no, maybe.
So, I don't know. Check what episodes we got coming up. We got a guest scheduled for one of those too. So, I don't know. Check and see what sounds good to you.
I'll see.
Right.
Look, I'm the what have I described myself as? I'm the wacky neighbor that shows up every once in a while. So maybe.
So I hope so. I hope we see it. We got some fun episodes coming up. So stay tuned for that. You can find the Disenfranchised podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can also shoot us an email, disenfranchpod@gmail.com. Listen to hours of Patreon content over at patreon.com/disenfranchpod. For $5 a month, you get included on that tier that allows you to see, oh shit, what was it? Oh, our Ghostbusters rankings, our disenfranchised on the rankings of the Ghostbusters films, which is the last time Brett and I will ever discuss that movie that got mentioned earlier on a recorded microphone, and probably in private too, because we just have agreed. There's a tacit agreement not to discuss that film.
It's Ghostbusters Afterlife. He's talking about Ghostbusters Afterlife.
I'm not allowed to mention it, but since he did, I guess it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's fine. We can mention the name. Okay. We just won't get into our feelings about it
anymore on mic, or probably in person.
Or in person, yeah, no.
Yeah, probably not. Let's just be honest. Some topics you just don't bring up in polite company. No. You can also join the official conversation of the Disenfranchised podcast over on Patreon by joining at the free level. We drop our main feed episodes there as well, so you can engage with us directly. You can comment. Tucker and I generally try to respond when we can. But yeah, head on over to patreon.com/disenfranchpod. Join us at any level for a really good time. You can find the podcast on very few social media platforms now. We're on Letterboxd, Bluesky, and YouTube. That's pretty much it at Disenfranched You can find our absent co-host Tucker at Ice909. That's ICENINE, the number 0 and the number 9 on YouTube and Instagram. You can also find him at Tuck_mugs at Instagram as well. And Brett, where can we find you on socials these days?
Absolutely nowhere. Maybe on Letterboxd every once in a while. It's us_warlock. But other than that, I'm a ghost.
There it is. He's a ghost, much like the Pokemon he does love to collect.
Just fuck social media.
Honestly, yeah. And I am Chewy Walrus on was it Bluesky and Letterboxd. That's pretty much all I do these days. So yeah, there you go. That's where you can find us. And yeah, if you do enjoy what we're doing, let us know. Give us a rating and review over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. 5-star rating and review really does help us find more people like you. And that is the end of the episode. So there you go, Brett. It's been like old times doing this with you today. It's been like we should try to do this more often.
We should. Sorry, Tucker.
Yeah, no, we love Tucker, but there's just something about getting the old magic back. Yeah, it's nice. This was a good chat.
Getting the band back together.
Absolutely. From the OG days, the early days, the salad days. All right. I'm going to shut up and shut this thing down. Thank you guys for listening. We really do appreciate it. We would not do it if you didn't. We probably would. We just like talking to each other, but I don't know. Recording it feels a little extra special. Letting you guys listen in on our conversation feels a little special. So that has been the end of our Oops All Video Game Corner theme month. So until next time, I'm your host, Stephen Foxworthy, for my colleagues, Brett Wright and Tucker. Until next time, game over.